It's becoming an end-of-season tradition to ride the Dreamland. And this year we do it in glorious weather. Hello and a very warm welcome to live coverage of the Giro del Veneto, the tour of the Venetian region. 170 kilometres between Tombolo and the beautiful Trapple at Monte Berico. Just outside of Vicenza, the race will finish. We had a Giro d'Italia stage finish here just a few years back. Those of you who know the region will know that it's either pan-flat or very short, sharp, steep hills. And we've got both in this particular race. 4 finishing laps, 15 kilometres each. 4 full times up Monte Berico and a finish up the hill coming out of town. Before we get there, 4 classified climbs to take on. A total of 1,600 metres to climb. And a field full of classy bike riders looking for one of the final prizes of the European cycling season. There's Monte Berico, in and around for 15 Ks each time. Finishing after 170 kilometres. And this was the scene in Vicenza. 25 degrees at the start today. They started just down the road in Tombolo, and all the old glorious buildings, the Venetian towers on the top of the hill there. That's where we'll be racing to. It's a real beautiful scene, as a lot of the big names are still racing. Michael Matthews still here. He's here alongside Filippo Zana, one of the local boys, the former Italian champ, and Scabo Grumai, fantastically gifted, hard-working professional from Ethiopia, who I gather is still looking for a contract for next year. Azure de Terre Citroën with Stan de Wolf, Benoit Kuznefroy, and another of the local riders. This is a hotbed of Italian cycling, this region. Former Giro stage winner Andrea Vendrame. Dorian Godon has won an uphill finish as well before. There's the organiser, Filippo Pozzato, former Italian champion. And this is the team that won the race last year with Matteo Trentin, racing in his final few days for UAE Emirates before he leaves the team. Mark Hirschi's in fine form. There's Davide Formolo, Rafael Maica and Diego Ulisi. It really is an A team. Italian champions in town as well, and there he was in conversation with the big boss, Pozzato. Of course, the Italian national champion nowadays, racing for Astana, Kazakhstan. A tired but ready to go Simone Velasco. It was just about 1:45 in the afternoon when things got underway, and it was a fast start. Not many prizes left. A prize of place on the beach. The holidays off coming. And this was the fight for the breakaway that went on for a long, long time. Led in principle by Jonas Abrahamsen, the Norwegian rider from Uno X. We go live for the first time. It's the Giro del Veneto as riders ride the Dreamland in glorious weather. 55 kilometres it took for any break to fall. They'd already gone past Cittadella. 6 riders got up the road, 4 of them remain. I can tell you the 6 riders to get there were Michael Belleri of BS Carrera. Jonas Abrahamsen, he's the man in the red and orange on the top left-hand side of your picture. He remains there, alongside Joey Roskopf in the grey for Q36.5. In that red and light blue, that's Brent van Moer from Belgium and Lotto Destiny. Stan de Wolf, very good classics rider from Azure de Terre, still there. Another man who was dropped alongside Belleri not so long ago was Davide de Cassan from Eolo Cometa. Here the team's chasing. Alpecin-Deceuninck looking to try and do something. They've had success in these races in the past, winning 2 years ago with Sandro Mörese. He's over in Turkey at the moment, but they've brought a team here with some very, very aggressive riders. They're riding alongside UAE Emirates. This is the peloton, and we're just about entering now our 4 laps of the finishing circuit around Monte Berico. 56.5 kilometres remain. The gap is still fairly substantial. 3 minutes, 40 seconds. They've got to take on Monte Berico on 4 occasions, though. Here to watch alongside me, I'm Rob Hatch, of course, and Ian Field, the multiple-time British cyclocross champ, nowadays coach to several World Tour pros. Ian, a very good afternoon, buongiorno. Always an interesting time of the season. There's different levels of motivation, some people looking for contracts, others desperate to be on the beach, but we're always treated to entertaining races here in Italy.
I think you've summed that up really well. I think that's probably what you're seeing in the peloton right now. You can see it the first time over that climb on this circuit. It's already splitting to pieces. I'm sure some people are already thinking about the beach. Like you said, some people haven't been perhaps riding their bikes as much as they should have been the last couple of weeks, and we're in for a treat. These kind of 4.5 circuits, taking in the Monte each lap and finishing kind of at the foot of it, up part of the way up. The final time should be a really interesting one. It looks like some teams really want to take this one on as soon as they've hit this finishing circuit.
Well, it's a combination, isn't it, of one-day races where you can go for it, and tomorrow, if it all goes wrong, you don't have to think about it too much. It's not a stage race. There's no time to think about. You can roll the dice and have a go. Plus, as you were just saying, yeah, some people maybe, certainly in beach weather, thinking they should be on the beach by now. These 4 riders are motivated, though. They've got in the breakaway today, and, well, they've got the advantage right now. And as you say, if it's splitting up already, some small teams, it could be a really interesting chase, this.
It looks that way, and this is a really strong breakaway. It didn't go for around 50 kilometres. It actually went on the first climb of the day. And whenever the breakaway forms on the first climb of the day, we know that it's the strong men coming to the fore. And yeah, when we were kind of waiting to go live, researching who was in the breakaway, and you're looking down, and that's a very strong 4 riders at the head of this bike race. It's going to be a tough chase for the peloton behind, because it was well up over 4 minutes at one point, that gap coming down ever so slightly, and it looks like UAE and Formolo doing the work right now.
Well, Davide Formolo won for just the 5th time in his career very recently. Had a very, very good victory over in Lombardy in the Coppa Agostoni. That's the Giro delle Brianze in the region just north of Milan and Bergamo. One of the several warm-up races to the Giro di Lombardia. They, of course, won that with Tadej Pogacar at the weekend. It's the rest of the team that's getting their opportunity here, and Formolo seemingly, I think you imagine working for Mark Hirschi today, given that he's the man in form, Ian.
You would have thought so. They've only got 5 starters, but when you look at the list, Trentin, Formolo, Hirschi, Rafael Majka and Diego Alisi, I think almost on their day, any one of those riders could kind of be the team leader, could be ridden for with this kind of finish. So just be interested to see how this one plays out and who has the legs come the end. But yeah, looking at recent form, Hirschi, this finish, took out Tour Luxembourg GC Coppa Sabatini, which finished on a very short, punchy climb as well. So yeah, I'd have thought Hirschi or Trentin today for them.
54 Ks to go then. This is just over the top and starting the descent at the end of Monte Berico. But each time we get to the top, there's a couple of little lumps and bumps. It's sort of undulating terrain for a few kilometres. And then back down onto the pan flat. And then this is a real traditional cycling region in Italy, but it's also a beautiful region as well. You've got the plain all the way up from Venice. And then you start to see these hills just appear out of nowhere. And you can see the grapes and Prosecco vines that are on each corner. Very hill, the towers, the churches. It's beautifully scenic, but it is also a great place to ride your bike, and fantastic for racing. Really opens it up to lots of different kinds of races. Image of one of those towers there in the background as the autumn sunshine drenches those Prosecco vines. And somebody will be getting the opportunity to spray a bottle or two of the good stuff on the podium at the end. Last year it was Matteo Trentin who took the victory. This race has only returned to the calendar for the last couple of years, since it was rescued, if you like, by Filippo Pozzato, who's now the organiser. But it's a race that's been going since 1909. Fantastic tradition here. The same year as the Giro d'Italia began, as well as the Giro di Lombardia. There was racing here in the Giro del Veneto, so it's hugely important. A race that was brought back a couple of years ago after an 11-year absence. So Murdersa winning, Trentin winning, all in different parkour. And this year we started in Tombolo, heading to Vicenza. Going to get a very good chance to have a look at all of these towns. Arcugnano is one of them. We were up and around this climb during part of the race last year. Of course, coming up from a different side. This time we're going to finish on Monte Berico, and those of you who have very good memories of the Giro d'Italia, I can tell you more than certain riders who are in this race. An anecdote that we'll come on to talk about in just a few minutes' time. But we've been here before on the Giro. Monte Berico had a stage finish in 2015. On that day, the victor was Philippe Gilbert. Tells you something about the type of rider that can win on this climb. And whoever wins might want to come back for a leisure ride. Just look at that. Very pretty. So just over 50 kilometres to go. Peloton is certainly not as big as it was previously. Again, a little easier maybe just to feel the pain in the legs at this time of year. Head of the race has done its descending. It's now back on the flat. And these are fairly nice wide roads to ride once you get down here. And this is where any group away is probably going to struggle a little, Ian.
It is. They kind of drop back down onto these wide main roads. And these are the roads where the peloton can really eat into that gap. We see it kind of tumbling. Since we came on air, they've lost over 30 seconds now, kind of 40, 45 seconds lost. But obviously going to be harder to chase down on those twisty, narrower descents, but right now this is perfect for being chased down by that raging peloton behind.
So 51 k's to go. Coming towards the end of our first local lap. Into Vicenza. One of the big towns that has its beautiful old traditional centre, but plenty of manufacturing goes along around this northeastern plain of Italy. Very populous area. A very well-to-do and well-off area, certainly, compared to the rest of Italy as well. But they know they're cycling. Lots of clubs, lots of professionals around here. I looked down at the start list here and I think I counted about 20 or so, 20 to 30 local riders on the start list. And that's just from one region. It's crazy.
It really is, but you imagine growing up, living in this area, what better way to kind of explore your surroundings than getting out on your bike. And it's just absolutely stunning. And yeah, just why wouldn't you want to ride your bike growing up here? So you can see why so many professionals come from this region and yeah, produce such great stock as well. I mean, they've got climbs in abundance, but also the flat riding if they want to. It's not like you're kind of pigeonholed as a rider. If you come from this region, you can kind of be a mountain goat or even like a punchy sprinter. So I think that's probably why you get so many different pros coming from this region. And even look at the weather, it's absolutely perfect. Glorious sunshine, mid-October, very warm in fact, 26, 27 degrees by this point in the afternoon. It is quite humid, up to about 60% humidity in the mid-afternoon, and not a breath of wind, kind of 2-3 miles per hour for northwest, southeasterly, sorry. So yeah, almost perfect cycling conditions. As we see now, still Davide Formolo. It looks like Israel coming to the fore. Another very strong lineup. Fugelsang, Nizzolo and Corbin Strong, who's probably their marked man today. He's had some very good results recently. Third at Franco-Belge, second at the Quebec, and he took out stage one of the Tour of Luxembourg. So yeah, watch out for him today.
I'm reminded by my local expert, Daniel Friebe, who has a very strong connection to this region and a wonderfully equally strong regional accent from here when he speaks in his impeccable Italian, that there are more professionals from the Veneto than from any other region in Italy. And of course, if you look at a lot of the big names of manufacturers and all sorts, big bike names and brands, many of them, if not most of them, come from this region as well. None of the four riders out here from this region. Did have two Italians away, both were from Lombardy, however. This is a very experienced pro. Good time trialist back in the day and on his day. Joey Roskopf, American. Riding now for the Swiss team, Q36.5. This is Jonas Abrahamsen of Norway. gap down to 3:10 as Stan de Wolf comes through. Hard-working classics rider from Flanders. A very warm welcome back to you TV viewers to the land of Venice. 4 events in 5 days. It's a festival of cycling in northeast Italy. The most traditional of those events today, the 86th Giro del Veneto, the Tour of the Venetian region. Tomorrow they'll be racing on gravel, Serenissima gravel. Race not on the telly, but lots of big names turning up. You've got the Sportive, the Veneto to go. And then on Sunday we'll be back with a Veneto Classic, a fantastically entertaining race and a parkour really made in the image of Filippo Pozzato, the race organiser. That race takes place and finishes on the beautiful bridge in Bassano del Grappa on Sunday. For now, at the Giro del Veneto, we've got commitment from both UAE Emirates and Israel Premier Tech. And Ian Field, who's alongside me today, we're just talking up Israel Premier Tech and their strong lineup here. And Marco Frigo's a young rider from this particular region who's really impressed. He was so good at the Giro d'Italia, wasn't he? Among that Israel team that came so close so many times with all of those second and third places from breakaways. Think Derek G, think Marco Frigo. And here, well, Jakob Fuglsang is back in action after a tough spring with illness and injury. You can see the experienced Reto Hollenstein just on the left-hand side and coming to swap turns now with Davide Formolo. He's a Swiss rider who's a very solid domestique. In the team too, this will bring a smile to you long-time fans' faces. It's Domenico Pozzovivo, yes, still going after yet another horror injury that this time he suffered at the Vuelta a Castilla León. Collapsed lung and broken ribs and all sorts, but he's back again. We'll hope he'll continue into next year. Into his 40s now, Domenico Pozzovivo. Nicholas Schultz is here as well, got Australian climate. And Corbin Strong, we think the man to have the pace to try and do something at the end from New Zealand. This is the breakaway, and this is Stan de Wolf. It's a free ride at the minute for the favourites from Azure Desert, I guess, Ian. Benoit Cosnefroy behind. Apparently he's had a very good look at the finish on VeloView without having a look himself. Of course, with these laps he gets an extra look at things, but he feels it could be a good finish for him. And I have to think back to last year when he won in Quebec, I think it was, in really esteemed company. Maybe a similarly good finish for him at Monteberico today. But Andrea Vendrame, that would be a dream win for everybody here in Vicenza and around. Vendrame from down the road. Not quite this particular city, but he is a Venetian. And Azure Desert, well, they can sit there and watch the other teams do the work right now, Ian.
Yeah, they're just sitting back, conserving themselves and letting Israel and UAE take control of the head of the bunch to try and bring this one back. It's a perfect opportunity for those riders. And like you mentioned, Cosnefroy, you'd have thought this would suit him. Looking back last year where he came to the fore and won in Quebec last year, we all thought he was going to kick on, and there was a huge win for him and such in a dominant manner. But it'd be interesting to see what he can do today. And like you said, Vendrame, the local man, yeah, he's going to be super motivated racing on home roads. As we see the breakaway hitting our climb now, the Monte Berico, 750 metres long, 9.5% average, and it kicks up to a 12.6% maximum, so a really tough climb. I did have a quick look on Strava, the KOM currently 1 minute 35 seconds, so it gives you the kind of idea, the sort of effort and the kind of rider that's really going to come to the fore on this climb.
We're just talking about the finish line as well in relation to Benoit Cosnefroy. He's having a look at the finish, and this is the finish here. A reminder that we continue to climb through the finish line for most of the local laps. It's only on the final approach to the line that the race will stop here, but you can see it twisting and turning. You don't see the finish line until relatively late, and this is where they come across the line, but then continue to climb. So 3 full laps to go here, and 45 kilometres remain. And just look at this, it's an absolute spectacle. Sanctuary at the top, La Madonna di Monteberico. And if you think back to the first Gravel World Championships just over a year ago, riders were climbing this at the start. Not quite San Luca in Bologna, but certainly gives it a run for its money with all these arches, doesn't it? And one man proud. He's ridden all of the Italian races in the autumn that he's been able to do. Is the new national champion. And there he is, Simone Velasco, racing for an Astana Kazakhstan team. It's doing well late season to pick up points. That time of the year now, Ian, that the end of the first of the 3-year cycle. I know it's a little complicated and a rather newfangled thing for everyone to understand. I think we struggle to get our heads around it sometimes, and we look at it every day. But the promotion relegation cycle, there are certain teams who are doing well. There are certain teams who feel, and we'll see the numbers in front of them, that they've had a bad year and will need more points over the next 2 years. For Astana Kazakhstan, it's a little bit touch and go at the minute. They could do with a better year next year.
Certainly, and the way the points work, it can end up with some strange kind of tactics and situations for teams in a lot of races, that they just need to pack riders into the top 10 to try and pick up as many points as possible. So rather than working for one rider to try and get the win on the day, you end up with almost 3 guys all going for it as individuals just to try and pick up as many points as possible. So it can make for some interesting finishes, and then you realise what team it is and perhaps where they are in those overall standings in terms of the relegation battle, and suddenly it begins to make a lot more sense. But like you said, I hope Cosnefroid checked out the finish in detail, because I think Velo Viewer had to finish at the top of the climb, whereas I was speaking to one of the riders yesterday, and he said, as we're seeing now, once you're in the peloton, kind of the speed that the peloton carries into the foot of the climb, it doesn't actually feel too bad. You only feel like you're really climbing for around about 150, 200 metres tops. So interesting, but as you said, it does twist left and right towards the finish line. So positioning absolutely key, unless you're going to kind of get cut off by riders almost straight line in those final couple of turns in the final 100 metres.
Is Schultz going to work at the front for Israel Premier Tech? A few of you been watching us for a few years might recognise the face behind him in the grey jersey. That's Gianluca Brambilla, the Giro stage winner, pink jersey wearer. And on the right hand side of the picture in the blue and white, a very popular rider from Eritrea. He's a little further back, in fact. There's Fatsion sitting there. I'll tell you at the front there, Skabu Gramai from Ethiopia. Such a hard-working domestique. He's been good against the clock. He's a really experienced World Tour pro now. But I've heard that he's no contract yet for next year. Anybody looking to fill the teams and look no further. He's been a brilliant worker in the last few years as Gramai. Now racing for Jaco Alula. And there's been some transfer news for Jaco Alula this morning, hasn't there, Ian? A big signing and a return home for Caleb Ewan, who has rescinded his contract with Lotto Destiny by mutual agreement. And he's going to go back home to the Aussie teams. That's fantastic news for both Jaco Alula and Caleb Ewan.
I agree. I think, something very much went wrong in terms of the rider-team relationship there with Caleb at Lotto Destiny, and it's been frustrating as a fan of the sport to watch such a big name, a big sprinter within our sport, just kind of struggling within that team. And I think it's best all round, really, which is probably why Lotto Destiny have allowed him to end that contract early and move home as such. Team Jaco Alula putting out quite comical bit on social media to announce the signing of him, but as you say, I think that is literally best for everyone in that situation, that he moves across, and looking forward to seeing what he can do next year on that team.
Is Bryn van Muur, until now, Caleb Ewan's teammate. Lotto Destiny, in terms of the points we were talking about, have had a very good year. They're in the top 8 or 9 right now of the world teams, the teams in the world. And as it stands, would stand to be promoted back to the top division again. Of course, there's 2 years to go in that cycle. But I think Lotto Destiny will be very pleased with how they go. And they'll be racing in World Tour racing starting from tomorrow morning if you're watching in Europe. A reminder that we will have the Tour of Guangxi, the final men's World Tour race of the season, live for you across our digital platforms. If you're watching in UK and Ireland, that'll begin at 6 a.m. Matt Stevens will be alongside me, Rob Hatch. So Schultz, Brambilla and Grumai. Mike is up towards the front. There is Alessandro De Marchi as well for Jaco Alula. And talking of Jaco, mentioned Zana, there's also Michael Matthews as well, and he was one of the riders who had to be reminded this morning that he'd actually ridden and raced up the hill they finish on today. Shows the amount of places that these guys get taken to throughout a career. He was actually in the mix for the win for a while as well. It was a stage back in the Giro d'Italia in 2015. Well, you might remember it looking different because the weather was absolutely horrific that day, and it was a stage that was won by Philippe Gilbert. And it was a really interesting mix of riders to the finish. Alberto Contador was up there. Diego Ulissi was up there. I'm talking 2015, the year that Contador won the Giro d'Italia. It just shows you that the run-in, the circuit, and the finish itself lends itself to, I guess, an unpredictable nature if you've got names as different as that coming into it in.
Very much so, and I think that kind of, sums it up, that a number of different kinds of riders can compete on this finish, because it's not, if it finished at the top of the climb, then suddenly that would filter a lot of the peloton down into kind of those puncheurs, those sprinter climbers, favouring more of a climber. But because it finishes quite near the bottom, it just means a lot more riders can compete, and it makes it super exciting for us watching, and also for the riders. If you get an element that I can compete here, and it kind of just allows more riders into that category of thinking that they can win on the finish, which, is really exciting. You mentioned Lotto Destiny, Andreas Kron, Milan Menton, Florian Vermeersch, so they've got a few options. I'd have thought perhaps Kron on a finish like this, seeing what he did at the Vuelta earlier this year on a punchy kind of finish like today. But we'll see who has the legs on the day.
Gather that Michael Matthews has reacquainted himself with that stage, watching it on YouTube on the bus this morning. "40 kilometres remain." Translates to about 2.5 laps. Reto Hollenstein is on the front. Interesting that UAE Emirates have just pulled back a little here, Ian.
I would probably say that's because Israel just upped it ever so slightly, as we get a rundown of riders to watch from the UAE team. Mark Hirschi, Matteo Trentin, Davide Formolo, Filippo Zana, Velasco. You mentioned Velasco. I was checking him out earlier. One of the very few riders, I don't know if anyone else managed this one, but he finished Il Lombardi on Saturday and then got 7th at Gravel Worlds on Sunday. So fair play to him, because 2 brutal races back-to-back last weekend from him.
Well, no wonder he's tired. He's tired at the end of this season. I guess it's an opportunity for him, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, unless he's able to surprise the rest of the national peloton again and win the jersey to show off that tricolore. It's not often as well on the team he's riding that you get a nice proper Italian jersey as well, so I'm sure he's enjoying his time, even if the legs are screaming holidays at him. But he's out there again.
He's having a really good end to the season as well. Second at the Trophy Mattiotti. He was 5th in Montreal, 3rd at Get-Go. Obviously Italian champs not that long ago in June, taking those out like you said. So he's finishing the season really strong for them, and I would look to him for them today. His sort of finish, he's very much a sprinter climber, or a climber sprinter, whichever way you want to look at it, but he can finish this one off today.
Plenty of experience chasing the 4 riders up the front down. The gap's holding at just under 3 minutes. It's becoming a hard chase. Israel Premier Tech are doing a decent enough job. Because if the kilometres continue to tick by, things might have to change in terms of commitment from other teams. And one of the problems that UAE have, they already committed Davide Formolo, didn't they? They don't have big numbers here. They only started with 5 of their allotted 7 riders. The Israel Premier Tech team started with 6, so they've got another rider. Again, you imagine their plan is to try and protect Corbin Strong. And again, other riders who can climb in the shape of Frigo, Pozzo Vivo. Is it hard enough for Pozzo Vivo? Probably not, the finish, but you never know. Over 130 kilometres of competition already. You're watching the 86th Giro del Veneto, northeast of Italy, and the professional peloton not quite winding things down yet. 2 big races to go in Italy, one of them happening today. The next on Sunday down the road, finishing in Bassano del Grappa. It's a beautiful part of the world, this. Churches, towers and old houses up on the hills. Fantastic views around from them down to the Venetian plain. Here on the road there are 37 k's to go now. Still a fair bit of the 1670 metres of climbing to go. 2 more full ascents of Monte Berico. And of course the final dash to the line as well. The first part of the climb, the first kilometre or so. 3 minutes and 2 seconds for 4 of the 6 riders who eventually got in a breakaway after 55 kilometres of trying today. These are the riders. There are 2 Belgians, there's a Norwegian and an American. Norwegian rider here is the only rider who's ever been to this race before. 3 debutants in the Giro del Veneto, one of whom is Stander Wulf in the white there. Abramson, well, he rode his first Tour de France this year. He's yet to win a race in his career. He's the odd one out in that sense in this breakaway. Brent van Moer and Stander Wulf have raised their arms. And the Wulf, well, he's been running since the junior categories, hasn't he? Pressing in the under-23 Paris-Roubaix when he was up and coming. He's never really hit that height as a pro in the seniors, but he's been there or thereabouts in a lot of races, particularly in the spring. Interesting to see where he fits in with quite a few changes in terms of personnel going on at Ajudas over the winter. Wulf still contracted for another year. Only 25 still, but Rick van Avermaet, who retired last week, does change the classics outlook somewhat. Sam Bennett is going to be the team's new sprinter next year. See where everything fits together, and it's always an exciting time for different riders who are maybe in need of a bit of either a kick up the backside, shut up the arm, new motivation, whatever it might be. And others who are hanging around, seeing new people join. Nice to have a fresh start sometimes, Ian.
It is. It's very good for the motivation, more often than not, a change of scenery, change of equipment, change of personnel around you in terms of DSs, coaches, managers, and also the other riders, which is super important. So it seems like this year, almost more than most, that there's been kind of an awful lot of transfers. I know there was obviously the whole merger talks, which put an awful lot of those transfers on hold for, what, a good couple of weeks there now, as everyone kind of tried to work out what was happening there, who was going to be a free agent, who was going to be on the move from Soudal Quickstep, but as it turns out, hasn't really come to much, so a lot of riders staying put, and so a lot of those riders that were looking for contracts can now kind of get bargaining again, get their name out there and try and secure a contract for next year. And these late season Italian races are a perfect opportunity. DSs, managers out there kind of perhaps looking for a certain sort of rider to fill a role within their team, then they can look down at today's racing on their TV screens and whether it's someone to do a good job for a team rather than a race winner, and they're looking down to see who's in the breakaway today, who's driving it on the front of the peloton. So it's a good opportunity for riders to put themselves out there and try and secure something for next year or the next few years within teams.
I already mentioned one such rider a little early on, didn't we see him, Scabu Gramai? Quite a few personnel changes at Uno X as well. One huge marquee signing in the shape of Magnus Cort. A team made up entirely of Norwegian and Danish riders. Much more of a United Nations approach at Q36.5. Interesting to see how their young man Walter Calzoni gets on today. He was in fine form, wasn't he, in Varese last week?
He was. He's definitely one of kind of the standout riders for me of stepping up this year and kind of really making a name for himself. 6th at Sabatini, 8th at the Memorio Marco Pantani, just recent results. So he seems to be loving these late season races in Italy, and to be honest, wasn't on my radar until literally a few months ago, and then just the results, but not only the results, the rides that he's been doing. He's been animating things, he's been there or thereabouts in a lot of these races. Sometimes it hasn't come off for him, but yeah, just constantly up there, constantly in the right moves. And once you find yourself in the right moves over and over again, it's only a matter of time before you pick up a really big result. So I'm sure he's eyed up this finish, and he'll be looking for a good result again today.
I almost got a massive result. Was just on the front there. He's stuffing down a gel in third wheel. Marco Frigo, local lad. It was in Bergamo, wasn't it? He finished just behind Brendan McNulty in the Giro d'Italia. Is Hollenstein at the front, Schultz helping. Fulsang, Pozzo Vivo and Strong wait behind. It is all Israel Premier Tech with a full committal here.
They're obviously super confident in perhaps Corbin Strong to try and finish this one off today. He has shown some excellent form recently. And yeah, just looking down at their DS today, Sam Bewley. He's not long ago retired professional rider, giving out the orders today, and they look a well-drilled team right now. Just sensibly, steadily bringing down that gap now, down to 2:40. As I said earlier, well up over 4 minutes, and when we came on air, kind of 3.5 minutes or so, and just being sensible about things, not blowing things to smithereens, not kind of using one rider up in a 5k stint, just taking turns between a few riders and just bringing this one down gradually to hopefully make the catch at the perfect opportunity. Not too far from the finish. They certainly wouldn't want to catch the breakaway with over a circuit remaining. That final climb would be a perfect launch pad with a lap to go for a counter-attack. So they'll be trying to catch probably just over the top of that final climb, or perhaps down onto the main road after it, just before the finish really would be perfect timing.
I'm very impressed with how this team of riders is working at the front. They are a team for now. They have to be. They have to be teammates until they can give themselves an opportunity. Still a big ask. They're holding up fairly well, and this is the period of the course where they're just losing that time, but they're very quickly onto the uphill again. This will be the start of the final kilometre, by the way, once we get to it. It's the penultimate full ascent of Monteberico. And just look behind. It's the fight for position as we turn onto the climb, but still Israel Premier Tech committing at the front. Other teams who've shown interest throughout the day, by the way, include Alpecin Koenig and UAE Team Emirates. There's the AKS Samsic team on the right-hand side. And another of the local riders, Luca Mozzato, who's a very fast finisher. Likes of Mathis Louvel and Hugo Hofstetter can do the same. And look out for Jente Biermans. Fantastic win in Luxembourg. In the same sort of way on a difficult parkour uphill. And did take that win just a day after the man you just talked about. Corbin Strong took what was arguably the biggest victory of his career. Luxembourg not particularly ranked above the Tour of Britain in terms of race ranking, you'd say. There's not too much difference. However, the start list this year at the Tour of Luxembourg was very, very special indeed. And to take a win in that company was brilliant for Corbin Strong. And then the day after, for the man I just mentioned, Jente Biedemans, the Belgian. Whoever does take the victory has got to get up this thing. 250 to the line from there. It's Abrahamsen in the red. That's the difficult thing about this group. They've got to keep everybody involved. They've got to keep everybody together. Hold on these flat and uphill sections, and then, as you were talking about earlier, Ian, make sure they continue to keep that advantage on the more technical descending sections.
I think this time up the climb's absolutely key in terms of seeing what the breakaway have got left in terms of stabilising that gap. So they've basically come into it with 2 minutes 40 of a lead. The problem they've got now is really pushing on up this climb might put one or two of these riders in trouble. Looks like Abrahamsen seems to be the strongest on the climb. I was just trying to remember where I remembered his name from, and it was stage 18 of the Tour de France. He was third, and it was that very, very strong breakaway day where Kasper Asgreen won, and he took out third place, and it was only the strongest of the strong that were left at the end of that one. So just goes to show kind of the strength that he has, and that combined with De Wolf, who's been very active in the races. He was very active at the weekend at Paris Tours, ended up 27th, so probably not the result he wanted, but he looked very, very strong within that one. As you've mentioned, Roscoe, the history he's got in individual time trialling, still very strong. And Brett Van Moort, well, just another absolute engine, and it's probably why this peloton isn't bringing this gap down too quickly right now. But we're going to get a time check over the top. I would have thought the peloton would be bringing it down on this climb, but looks to be stabilising.
Yeah, but Van Moort, a stage winner in the Dauphiné a couple of years ago. You have to hand it to Israel Premier Tech here. They're really taking it up. Half of their team has been committed. Alpecin de Koning, maybe looking for something. Well, they're looking to try and throw the cat among the pigeons here. We know that Stefano Oldani would like something like today. He's a Giro d'Italia stage winner. And they're sending one of their riders up to try and make things even more difficult. And the likes of Oldani, other riders on Alpecin would need to get rid of the faster finishes, you think. So this is time to make it more difficult, as Azur Dessert are going to follow this move.
Good move from Azur Dessert, just covering this one off. Even if they get a decent gap, they can just sit on the wheel, get a free ride, hopefully across. I can't see the Alpecin de Koning rider riding across a 2.5 minute gap on his own, but looks like he's actually putting the Azur Dessert rider in trouble. Rafael Majka just monitoring things behind for the UAE squad, and look how spread out now that peloton is. This is going to cause some trouble for riders down the back of the peloton. Just this won't be the same size of peloton going over the top of here, and one of the Israel riders going out the back after that good work earlier.
Putting the whole peloton in trouble. And it's now Rafael Majka who's forced to take it up on the front. We saw him in the under-23 Worlds in Scotland, and he's here being aggressive and exciting again. It's a young man from France, Axel Laurence. And look at the damage he's doing here.
Everyone just fighting for the wheel ahead as they go through that feed zone. Just riders sitting up left, right and centre. Riders having to jump round people, and it drags all the way over the top. So even though it does level off ever so slightly, it doesn't get too much easier. But Rafael Majka's brought this one back very strong from the Polish rider. Here comes 36.5 on the left hand side. Just looking very comfortable from Brambilla there. Well at home on these short punchy climbs.
It has been a while since he's been anywhere near his top form, however, so it's refreshing to see Brambilla looking in nice, fancy form towards the end of the year. But it's one long line now in the peloton, and Axel Laurence and Alpecin de Koning have made it difficult. What it has done, it's effectively made it extremely difficult for Israel Premier Tech to continue their own chase. Yes, the gap's only at 2 minutes now, but the riders who are doing the work for them, well, they've been burned off the front now.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was kind of almost the best thing in terms of trying to bring this one back as a peloton. But as you said, Alpes and Tacona don't really have. They have Christian Sparagli. He's kind of a fast finisher, but they also have Aldani, Osborne, Jimmy Janssens, Bognar, obviously Axel Laurence we just saw, and Nicola Conchi. So perhaps they just want to make this race hard, like you said, just throwing down some attacks. It's kind of their way. When Mathieu van der Poel isn't within the squad, very active team. They're always on the front foot, always trying to make things hard for other riders, and that's exactly what we've seen there. It'd be interesting to see how long it takes Israel Premier Tech to kind of gather themselves and get themselves as a unit back to the front of this one, and also to see where Corbin Strong is within that peloton now. That was really strung out over the top of that climb.
Well, Danny isn't a particularly prolific winner, but he's had that massive win at the Giro d'Italia Genoa from the breakaway. You look at Sparagli, only one win his career, albeit a big one at the Vuelta. No longer really a sprinter, is he? He's become more of a helper. Keep your eyes on that team. There's where we've been, and this is where we are. On the top of Monteberico, on the undulating section before diving down to the Venetian plain again. These are fast roads, even though we're going uphill. Almost breaking into the corner sort of stuff there. Get down to 1:56, and the peloton much smaller after that attack from Axel Laurence. It's now Rafał Majka on the front, Skabu Grimay on his wheel. Kuznefroy not far away from the front. Rescon and Florian Vermeerser in attendance. Mark Hirschi down in about 10th to 12th position. Swiss cross on his chest. He's the national champion of Switzerland. One of 3 national champs on show today. As good a my now goes to work. Norwegian national champions here as well. Fredrik Svernes. Of course, the aforementioned Velasco of Italy. There's Trentin, Jersey Open, chain swinging. Riding in his final couple of races before moving over to Tudor Pro Cycling for next season. Whilst our television viewers are away, a reminder for you digital subscribers, thanks for your custom, and just to let you know that the Tour of Guangxi, just check your schedules and your territory restrictions, but it will be live tomorrow morning European time. Or if you're watching around the world, check your times as well. The race due to finish around 2:30 in the afternoon Chinese time. That is British summer time plus 7, Greenwich Mean Time plus 8. All gets a little complicated, doesn't it? Check your application, it'll have the right local start times for you on the GCN app. The tour of Chongming Island is available as well. Slightly earlier in the morning. Marty and Danny will be along to bring that for you. So here she continues to move up. Rafał Majka riding in his service. Diego Ulissi a couple of wheels behind as well. UAE Team Emirates are ready again for action. And Israel Premier Tech have started to recompose things after that chaos at the start on the climb there. And they've recommitted to the chase as well with Marco Frigo. The gap is still staying fairly interesting for these four for now, Ian.
For sure, they've taken 45 seconds out of the breakaway on that climb, but given the gap, it's still near that 2-minute mark with 24.5 kilometres to go. And given the firepower though, Roscoe just looks like he's beginning to feel things. It's been a super fast race so far, and yeah, just over the top of the climb, kind of goes down and then kicks back up again as the breakaway just crests that kind of second kick on this circuit. Now it's kind of very fast, twisty descent down, back down to that main road, and yeah, they have one lap remaining with around 15 kilometres to go. So I think it's going to be touch and go.
An entertaining watch as we get towards the end of the cycling season. And always a pretty view. Not quite as pretty if you're in this bunch still having to chase. Welcome back, everybody, from 1909 to 2023. Cycling history in the heartland of cycling in Italy. It's the Giro del Veneto, and this is UAE Team Emirates with Rafał Majka, man who spent time in this part of the world as well. Fluent Italian speaker, fantastically well-respected and gifted rider. Has won plenty himself, former national champion, king of the mountains at the Tour, stages while winking away to the camera. He's been up there in the general classification in the Grand Tours. Now, he gives everything to help his leaders. Today, we expect that to be Mark Hirschi, winner of the Veneto Classic last year, hoping to win the other of the big races this week in this region, the more historic one, 86th edition today, the Giro del Veneto. Gap at 1 minute 52, but victory for the peloton is by no means assured here. There's a lot of work to do. 1 minute 50 behind Stan de Wulf, Bren van Moer, Joey Roskopf and Jonas Abramson. One rider in that front quartet has just started to show a little bit of weakness. It's the rider from the United States, Joey Roskopf, who's just off the back, the 34-year-old from Decatur. But he's back in here on the descent. Be hoping to have recovered enough to commit some more. Winner of 5 bike races throughout his career so far. Stan de Wulf, former under-23 Paris-Roubaix winner. Only pro victory came at the Boucle de l'Aune. Van Moer, rather bigger win in France, that stage of the Dauphiné. And as we mentioned, Jonas Abramson, the only man not to have raised his arms in professional cycling here. Came to this level of pro cycling rather late. He's 28 now. It's only his 3rd year at the 2nd division level. He's been in and around domestic cycling in Norway for a long time. Down the bottom of the hill then. This is where they're really going to have to work for that advantage. It's down a little more, and behind, if they commit, you sense that the peloton could do a lot of damage here.
It looked like things had changed in the mentality over the top of that second kicker from Majka. Looked like word had gone out that that gap wasn't coming down perhaps as quickly as they'd want it, and yeah, looked like he was very determined over the top of there to really carry the speed into the descent and try and bring that gap down. Looked like Ulissi was going up to give him a hand as well as Israel kind of gathering themselves and sending some more men up to help. So you end up with kind of 3 or 4 guys, 2 from UAE, 2 from Israel, all rotating through, then this gap's going to come down very, very quickly. As we see speed behind on this descent actually splitting the peloton. This is the only real twisty, narrow section of the course, and you see how strung out it is, just under a little bit of pressure from 3 or 4 riders rotating at the front. So yeah, people who are struggling at the back over the top of the climb, no rest on the descent.
I imagine it's no complete disaster if you miss one of those splits and get back on here, Ian, but if you want to be in the mix at the end, it's just extra work you're giving yourself to close the gap, isn't it? And that could take something away.
For sure. It's I think it would be rare to find yourself on your own having to close a gap, but if you do, that's a huge amount of energy expended, and you see the time gap from the first rider of the peloton to the last rider no matter which way you look at this, unless the front of the peloton was to sit up and really slow down, and you could make your way back into the top 20 or so fairly easily. But that's not going to happen with the break still with a minute and a half with 20 kilometres remaining. The only way you're going to get back to the front is by expending some energy, or expending energy of valuable teammates who perhaps you'd want to be saving come the kind of final 3 kilometres. It's going to be super important getting put into the right place. The final kilometres predominantly uphill, and it just gradually ramps all the way to the line. So getting put into a good position with around 300-400 metres to go, and then even a lead out is going to be important. I know it's uphill, but the speed's going to still be pretty high, so having teammates towards the end of this one could be really valuable.
Well, Brenfort-Mour's teammates are waiting in the peloton behind, including Andreas Kron. Mentioned they've had a solid season, led by a stellar form of Arnaud Delis. He's a rider you'll be able to see in action in Guangxi starting tomorrow morning. For Asher there in the break, they could do with a win. They have not won since August. Only 8 victories all season as well for Standard Wolf's team. Kind of likes of Kuznov, Roy and Vendrame come up with if Standard Wolf and company are caught here. Certainly starting to look like it's more probable than anything else, isn't it, with Schultz continuing to commit. 18.5 kilometres now remain.
Yeah, now that Israel have got some help from UAE with those 2 riders, that gap really beginning to fall on the part of the circuit that really favours the peloton, favours the chase on this flatter main road, and they'll be rapidly approaching that climb once again. When I looked and did my research, 15-kilometre final lap, you think, oh, there's plenty of time between each climb, but the fact there's almost like that double kicker after the climb and then a very fast descent, fast main road back round, it seems like that climb's coming round super fast for us commentating, let alone for the riders in that peloton.
That's a nice lap, a creative bit of parkour design. Certainly making for an unpredictable, very entertaining race this afternoon. Back we are with the team pursuit out in front. All 4 of them hanging on for now.
Looking less and less likely now that breakaway will survive. Probably going to be brought back perhaps just over the top of that climb, which would be perfect timing. But what it has allowed is those 4 teams represented in the breakaway, their teammates just having to sit back, sit in the wheels, conserve as much energy as possible come the final lap of this bike race. So super important job done by those guys. And Alpecin de Koning now putting another rider up to aid that chase. Be interesting to see what they do this time round. Obviously last lap Axel Laurent went on the attack, a vicious attack from him to try and split things. I'm sure he was hoping to kind of prize a few riders away, but that wasn't the case, and it was Rafael Majka who kind of kept things under control within that peloton, gradually rode that one down. So interesting to see what happens this time round, just 2 kilometres before they hit that climb once again.
The mathematics are equal now, 4v4, because Diego Ulissi has begun to ride as well. Nick Schultz is the man for Israel Premier Tech there, just drifting to the back of the line. Laurence, after his move, has been shoved in to do the work. Rafael Majka sitting second wheel. And there's going to be fresher legs behind than these 4 who fought to get in a breakaway, and many were fighting for 50 k's or so. Abramson, especially at the back there, he was the first to attack when I was going to say when the flag was waved, but it was one of those races. It's becoming a bit more tradition in these Italian Cup races. You stop at kilometre 0, have a posh picture taken, a VIP or 2 waves, and then you have to start. It's not a rolling start, but he was the first rider to go. Here behind, man hoping to be first across the line. One of the big favourites, Mark Hirschi, sits very close to the front. And Mark is looking after Zana at the back there for Jaco Alula. Looking around for Michael Matthews. He says he's been not so well, actually, pretty sick the last couple of weeks, but he was hoping for good feelings at the end today. No sign of him on that particular camera shot. And there's sign of plenty of beauty on this one, though. Central Vicenza, looking up towards Monteberico on the shot there. Well worth a visit if you can. It's the sanctuary at the top and the arches that lead. Today, a good collection of fans up there ready to cheer on the winner. The last full time then up Monteberico. There its vital statistics. 1.9 kilometres long, average gradient at 4.4%, a maximum of over 6%, and it continues through the finish line and up to the top. Reminder, the next time they climb up here, they will already be in the final few hundred metres. 57 seconds of a gap, 300 metres before they cross the line and take the bell. And behind it gets more heated.
The full climb 1.9, but they only do 750 metres of it. The very final time up to the finish. Looks like Rafael Majka, his job's done for the day, slips back. So, yeah, UAE a man down, but Ulisi, Trentin, Hershey still all there. Haven't seen Davide Formolo for a while. He was working hard earlier, but still well represented with 3 riders. And we see that breakaway now. Joey Roscott, saw him struggling just over the top of that second kicker last time round. He's the first rider to drop away from that breakaway as we see an attack from Brent Van Moor now. Trentin on the front. I think we get our answer of who he's working for. Mark Hershey in the wheel of him.
46 seconds, the bell rings, and it's Brent Van Moor who does attack. The cars and motorbikes speeding past, which means the gap is for shortening. Roscott already out the game. Abramson trying to hang on the wheel, and Trentin with a big putting on of power to take them across the line, shelter Hershey, and Hershey now is going to take over and push on himself. This could be an even more aggressive race than we thought it might be.
It's interesting from UAE, sending Hershey away with a lap to go, but Brent Van Moor, huge attack, but couldn't get rid of anyone. As you see Mark Hershey now.
Zahn on his wheel. On the right hand side, several other riders trying to get there and involved. Conchi's not far away. Roland Johannesson is there. And this race is splitting up, it's breaking up, it is all over the road. The final time up Monteberico. It's a beautiful sight from up here. Oh, it will be horrible if you are swinging and looking at everybody else go away from you. The gaps open up, we could have a very, very different race in the next few kilometres.
I think I counted 11 riders making that front split. Still Hershey driving it, not getting any help at all from anyone else. He's not going to get any help from the UNO X or the Lotto Destiny riders. I think that's Cron perhaps in there on the left-hand side.
Conchi's there.
6.5. Conchi just covering things.
Looked as though Battistella was there as well. He had his family at the start. One rider from Astana. Fulsang has made it up to the front. This is Conchi. There's Brambilla in the grey. Roland Johannesson is there, and it's going to be Fulsang who's going to take it up here. Pozzovivo is in and around as well, and it looks as though it's Pozzovivo who'll start to take it up. And the grand old man is teaching the young kids a bit of a lesson here.
Great to see him back at the front of a bike race again. Like you said earlier, that horrendous crash that he suffered, I'm sure many thought that that might be the end of Pozzovivo, but back now on the front of the peloton, doing what he does best, climbing. Fugelsang in the wheels. Brent Van Moor going again.
He's strong today, isn't he? Brent Van Moor once more. Abramson in the chase, and it's De Wolf here in the white jersey just chasing on. 30 seconds now with 13.5 kilometres to go, and the hope here for Brent Van Moor is to stay away. I just hope and pray that they look at each other behind. It's not likely, but you've got to be in it to win it.
For sure. I think he's just trying to get over this second kicker, because then they're into that twisty descent, which hard to take too much time back on there, and then they're down onto that main road and back round to the climb ever so quickly, but can't get rid of anyone, and those stinging, vicious attacks just kind of, yeah, really takes it out of the other riders, and when they do get back to the wheel, they're kind of reluctant to come through and give him a hand, so that time gap just starts to fall once again. So perhaps not the best in terms of keeping these three away from that peloton, but Brent Van Mel obviously feeling very strong and feeling like he can go solo to the finish here. It'll be interesting to see now who's driving it still on the front of the peloton. Looks like maybe Israel still on the front of this one.
21 seconds to catch the remaining three riders in front. They are De Wolf, Van Moer, Abramson. And we look back to see Jakob Fuglsang, former Monument winner, out there at the front. Domenico Pozzovivo sits ready and waiting. Filippo Zana in about 5th position. Corbin Strong still there, halfway down here, and Israel Premier Tech are doing a good job. It's Pozzovivo and Fuglsang working for you. And if you're Corbin Strong, you must feel $1 million. Look at the calibre and quality of riders who are doing the work for you.
Definitely. If he needed a boost to his confidence, that's exactly it. Looking up and seeing two such big names of the sport, such experienced, strong riders, yeah, kind of giving up their race for you. Although that does, in turn, add a little bit of pressure. To see Mark Hirschi falling towards the back of this group, but Theo Trentin in there still for UAE.
Of course, Lotto Destiny have a rider up the road, looking like the strongest rider up the road as well. They've got several of teammates here, led by Andreas Kron. Florian Vermeers have been hanging around as well, fresh off his silver medal at the Gravel World Championships at the weekend. They're holding on and working together again. It is not over yet.
After those stinging attacks, it looks like kind of white flag's been waved, although Brent Van Moer skipping turns, that's not going to go down well after putting in those attacks. They really need to work together at this point if they are going to survive to the finish. Two riders chasing them down. It really needs all three of those breakaway riders to pull through as strong as possible. The Trentin coming up on the right hand side of our screens. This group swelled. Quite a few more riders than perhaps we initially thought were going to come over the top of that one when once Mark Hirschi went on the attack. Just trying to see who else has made the split. Moving up on the left hand side of our screen, a few riders from Little Trek as well. Seeing who.
Tesfazion. He's an interesting rider for a finish like this. He is there for Little Trek. He was helped by Jacopo Mosca. Himself has been getting a rare opportunity every so often to do a bit of racing for himself. One man who isn't here, just having a good look. I'm not sure if you've seen him, Ian, but I cannot see Michael Matthews.
No, been looking for the Aussie. Just trying to look now down. Velasco still there on the left-hand side, and Arkea moving some riders up. That's Hofstetter there. He's just been crashing recently. Mazzato as well. He's on some good form. He won Chimay Binch the other week with a very well-timed, very late sprint to the line, winning from a very small group that managed to prize themselves clear on that very final cobbled climb to the finish. So watch out for that man. He's got good legs.
Plenty of opportunities for Arkea Samsic. Mathis Louvel there at the back. Of course, looking at the likes of Mozzato, Local Boy, Piermon's going well, Hofstetter you mentioned. Filippo Zana seems to be the main man left for Diego Alula. Another stage of the Giro d'Italia this year and in the National Champions jersey at the time. Now then, we got to move. Q36.5 unhappy with the situation. They were in the break until recently, and they're now on the attack. And this looks like they're really going to try and follow. And the race is being blown apart here.
This is a huge attack. It might be Cron chasing this one down. Definitely Trentin as well on the wheel of Cron. But that was a stinging attack from the Q36.5 rider. Was that perhaps a young Brit, Mark Donovan, perhaps on the attack? He loves an attacking, positive racing style. Wait to get a name check on him, but that gap just almost halved, just that one attack on that small ramp up.
So you're looking at the three at the head of the race on your picture right now, but just a handful of seconds behind, you've got the attackers. And here they come. No big gaps though. The gaps have been closed, and it's one long line, albeit a much more on the rivet long line. Right from Lidl coming to take the touch through, and it was Mark Donovan indeed who took that move off the front. Former DSM rider, 24 now, from northwest England. Was winner last year, this year I should say, of the Sibiu Tour. Mountainous race in Romania. And right they go, but it's probably going to be game over now for this trio once we get on the flat, isn't it?
I would have thought so. This is their kind of last opportunity to stay away on this twisting, fairly narrow descent, but also could be an opportunity for someone, maybe a local who knows the roads, to feel as though that they could maybe get a gap on this descent. We've seen the gap stabilise around that 10 seconds, but it is coming down. Interesting to see who's on the front of that peloton, who's leading them down this descent. Looks like they're going fast.
They are absolutely flying into the final 8 kilometres of this 86th edition of the Giro del Veneto. Starting in Tombolo, finishing just outside of Vicenza, Monteberico, and its spectacular scene at the top by the chapel. The local boy Filippo Zana from Italy, waiting ready to pounce. Stepped up a huge level this year with that stage at the Giro d'Italia. Looking back to Filippo Fiorelli here, from way down the other side of the country. Diego Lissi, top 3 when we had the Giro d'Italia stage on this climb all the way back 8 years ago. And it's now just a matter of a few pedal strokes as to when this breakaway is caught. It's going to be all together with 7 kilometres or so remaining, but a much smaller group with the attacks coming off. And now a gap opening up between the chasing duo there. And we're going to have a brand new race situation. Trentin has a rider from Lotto Destiny on his wheel. Looks to be Andreas Kron of Denmark.
Velasco sees the danger though, straight on this one, but look at it splitting up behind everyone on their knees
as well. Alexander Kamp on the wheel of Simone Velasco, former Danish champion, now racing for Tudor Pro Cycling. And the pressure straight on as to who will chase here. Small gap opening. Arkea Samsic decided enough was enough, and they've brought this one almost back now. That is Kron though, trying to put the pressure on again. The Wolf's still there, and further splits down the bottom of the group. This could get very tactical indeed already. The looking around starts.
It does. They've got this super fast main road all the way back. So we see quite a large split now in this front group. Here we see who's at the back. It is Fuglsang doing that work earlier. No surprise to see him out the back, but also Ulisi distanced. But here's the attack from Florian Vermeers from Lotto Destiny.
Vermeers then with one rider in tow from UNOX. And the rider in question, by the way, is their main man. It's Tobias Haaland Johannesson. We know that Vermeers can ride on the flat. We know he's a solid enough climber. Tobias Haaland Johannesson is a top all-round bike rider. Talking a man at the youth level who excelled, who got his nation excited about having a superstar in the World Tour. He's not quite in the World Tour yet, but he's racing the biggest races in the world. He won the Tour de l'Avenir 2 years ago. He's only 24, and he was victorious as recently as the Tour of Luxembourg, winning the final stage. He's on the wheel here. Is he going to contribute?
This is a dangerous duo of riders, because who's left to chase it? That's like two AG2R riders, and one of those fully committed to try and close this one down, because two very strong riders, very capable of taking this one all the way to the line, but doesn't look like they're fully committed in terms of helping each other. See, that group still haven't quite made it. Looks like Ulissi has jumped out of this group to try and get up to the front to try and help his two UAE teammates who are still in there, I think, Trentin and Hershey.
Milan Menton at the back as well, caught out wearing number 94. There for Astana, Kazakhstan, is Harold Lopez, who's going to turn professional with them at the end of this year. It's brought back, and again, Q36.5 are on it. Keep your eyes again on Walter Calzoni, left-hand side, moving up in that grey jersey as we get to 4.5 kilometres to go now. And again, they all look at each other. Not too far before we'll start climbing to the line. Just less than 1 kilometre to go when it seriously goes uphill, but the drag begins before then. Few teams quite content to keep this together and have their faster riders had to have a go. Israel Premier Tech have worked all day for Corbin Strong, who sits in the centre of this group. Arkea Samsic have several options. They're there with 3 of their riders at the front with the red jerseys on. Lotto Destiny, what do? They've been on the attack. There's Jacopo Mosca right inside in the multicoloured Lidl Trek jersey, but there are other teams who want to make this up and make it difficult, as it's Uno X from Norway who start to just guide everybody through these difficult sections. 56 there from Arkea Samsic, still at the back Mathis Louvel, but several of his teammates up the front. Dorian Godon being moved up on the left hand side. This is Stander Wolof who is in the breakaway, and another member of the Uno X team is into the line at the front. Where's the next move coming from, Ian?
Your guess is as good as mine, but Uno X with 5 riders in this front split, so they have serious numbers if they do want to do some form of lead out into this climb. Just trying to see who else has numbers here. UAE with those 3 riders. Ulissi did make it across. Trentin looks like they're working for Hershey. Arkea Samsic with 3 or 4 riders as well. Q36.5 seem to have a few numbers in here, and Lotto Destiny. AG2R just lining up on the right hand side, so it looks like we're going to get a huge race, a huge rush into the final kilometre where it begins to really kick up to the line. And we're going to see who has the strongest team and the best legs on the day come the end of this one.
4 riders from Arkea Samsic getting into position. Norwegian flag there on the back of Fredrik Zvernes. He's the national champion. It's Ulissi now at the front for UAE Team Emirates. Trentin will try to guide Hirschi into a position where he can win this race. Right turn coming up now, 2.5 kilometres to the line. The red jerseys of Uno X still in control. They speak to each other on the radio. Stefano Oldani's just behind them in the blue jersey. He represents Alpecin de Koning. Pozzo Vivo here at the back, and his teammate Strong is further up. 107 is the jersey number to look out for him. Sbaragli is in there, waiting to go. He sits on the wheel at the moment of Oldani. Is it going to be a rare opportunity to do something himself for Oldani?
I would have thought so. Looks like everyone just trying to leave it as late as possible. They know how important it is to carry speed into that final uphill. See flick to the left-hand side of the road from Jaco Alula and Alpecin de Koning. But so important to get your timing right with these uphill punchy finishes. Go too early, use up your men, and leave your sprinter exposed as you hit the lower slopes, and they're going to get swamped.
Velasco still in there following the wheels. He's looking for the wheel of Christian Sbaragli. Alessandro De Marchi doing everything he can to put Filippo Zana in the right position. And it's still Tobias Holland Johannesson at the back of the line there for Uno X. And on the right hand side now, several riders from Lotto Destiny moving up. Camp tries to get involved in there again for Tudor Pro. as Faction tries to get himself into a decent position. Coming up towards the final kilometres now. 1.2 k's to go. Flamme Rouge is just up the road here. Fiammarossa time, 1 kilometre to go. The Giro del Veneto will be decided here on the hill to Monteberico. It's all to fight for, it's all to go for, and it's a lightning pace being put on the front for UNOX, following our UAE team Emirates. Agir Dessert moving up with Kuznefroy and Vendrame. A couple of those green jerseys from Green Project Pardiani in there as well. But keep your eye on Hirschi, he's poised and ready to go. The meters tick away. 700 to go now as the finish line is just up the hill here. Those red jerseys that have come all the way from Norway are really taking it to the World Tour teams. A couple of riders in there for Q36.5. It's Strong out, and I'm looking at Corbin Strong now in about 15th to 20th position. A lot of room to make up. Kuznefroy going one side. It's Trentin now on this left-hand side, trying to be followed by Calzoni as well. Here she now is looking for this. And it's Kuznefroy who still tries to go 250 metres. And with Arquer with a couple of jerseys up there having an opportunity, there is still that chance for them to take it. But here goes Hirschi now on the left-hand side as we look at it in the white jersey. Maybe boxed in, and that could do for him. It goes across the row, but Hirschi's still battling, still trying to get through. I'm not sure he can do it. He's running out of gas. You can see there that also it's Vermeers, but look at Dorian Gaudon. Look at Dorian Gaudon. This is a brilliant effort by the man from Agir Dessert, and he does it. Dorian Gaudon all the way to the line. He's done it on the uphill before in Belgium. He does it here in Italy. It's just a 9th victory of the season for Agir Dessert, and Dorian Gaudon takes the Giro del Veneto.
Wow, that was just a pure strongman sprint all the way. Looked like Hirschi just got flicked into the barriers when he was carrying some good speed that took him back a few bike lengths, but I don't think anyone was coming around Gaudon then. We hadn't mentioned him all day in terms of winning this bike race, but showed at the end there. Hasn't raced too much since finishing the Vuelta, only Paris-Bourges and Paris-Tours last weekend, but takes out the wind in some style.
Dorian Gaudon from a melee of riders. That all got pretty messy up there as well, with Hirschi into the barriers, then with an elbow out of it, just trying to stay on the bike. But Agir Dessert Citroën in the break, able to follow, and their man finished it off. Dorian Gaudon is a bike race winner again, and in the same year he did it at the Brabantse Pijl. He's now done it here at the Giro del Veneto. A much needed win for the French team. Dorian Gaudon wins the Giro del Veneto 2023. A difficult, messy finish to follow, for being honest there, Ian.
It really was.
It was all over the road, wasn't it? We didn't see, I don't think, everything that was happening there on the road, but there was a lot happening. Arquer had several riders in there. It'd be good to get an overhead shot to see who did what right and who did what wrong, but whatever happens, you can't argue with what Agir Dessert did.
Certainly not. Like, a number of teams had the numbers, but they didn't have the numbers with the legs. So Arquer certainly had 3 or 4 riders there in terms of a lead out. I think we're going to get the overhead shot now. This is just of the very final meters, those left and then right hand turn to the line, and Gaudon only going away from the rest of the pack at this point. Really, really strong sprint. Interesting to see Uno X rider, did he get up to take second place on the line? It's going to be very close between those two.
Corbin Strong up there for 4th place, that looks certain. And I think it was a 5th place for Mark Hirschi. The rider there for Lotto Destiny was Vermeers, I think.
Really good from Gaudon, getting up the inside of Vermeers on that left-hand turn, just able to take the shortest line possible through the final couple of corners. But what allowed him to do that was simply having the legs, as everyone else was fading. He seemed to be still speeding up towards the line. The Uno X rider finished super strong. Corbin Strong finished fast as well. Hirschi just dying in those final 50 metres to the line.
By my reckoning, Dorian Gaudon amazingly, is the first ever French winner of the Giro del Veneto. Godon beats Tobias Holland Johannesson, Florian Vermeers, Corbin Strong and Mark Hirschi. Mozzato, the best local finisher, Battistella in 7th place with Louvel, Kron and Brambilla all in the top 10. A sensational win for Dorian Godon. A rider who just keeps getting better and better. 2 massive wins this year at the Brabantse Pijl and in the Giro del Veneto, where he is the first ever French winner. A race that down the years has been dominated by the Italians, the odd big Belgian win, the likes of the Vlaming have won here. But Dorian Godon taking victory and adding his name to a race that has some fantastically gifted riders on its palmarès down the years. The great swan here, the likes of Coppi, Binda, Girardengo and Dorian Godon is the 86th winner of the Giro del Veneto. And some good news for the sponsors. How about this one? Agio Dessert, the only team with Campagnolo on the World Tour, I'm told, this year. And at the home of Campagnolo, they have taken a massive victory. Dorian Godon doing the business. That'll have gone down well with the sponsors.
Very well indeed. I'm sure there's representatives here from all the local bike component companies. As you said earlier in commentary, a lot of factories in this area. See, Tobias Johannesson did get up for 2nd place. He backs up some seriously strong recent results. 4th for Franco-Belge, 3rd on Sunday at Paris Tours. So another podium to note down for him. Some awesome results to finish off his season.
So the classified results of the Giro del Veneto, seeing Dorian Godon beating Johannesson and Vermeers. Let's go back and have a look at that final kilometre. Talk us through it if you can, Ian. It's a bit of a mess all out there on the road.
Here we go, and it was Uno-X who had the numbers there. They took the race up by the scruff of the neck, quite a long way out to control things, but what that meant was they were only really left with one rider on the front with 1 kilometre to go. We saw Ulissi, Trentin working for Mark Hirschi at this point, but the trouble was when the Uno-X rider peeled off, we had seen earlier on the penultimate climb of this, Ulissi had been dropped and it just didn't quite have the legs to kind of keep it going. Trentin sensed that, so he had to go that little bit earlier than he would have wanted to. Just Hirschi had to come off the wheel there to follow the AG2R rider on the right hand side. Arkea with a number of riders up there, but no one had a proper lead out as such. And here we see the Arkea rider. This is where he put Hirschi kind of accidentally. Hofstetter put accidentally Hirschi into the barriers as he was almost trying to get out of the way, and that allowed Vermeers and then Godon come left hand side with Johannesson around Hirschi, but as I said, Godon was just going away from everyone the final 50 metres, a real show of strength and very much a similar finish to that Brabantse Pijl race that he won earlier this year in very, very different conditions. They had some awful weather to contend with that day. Johannesson literally in the last 25 metres coming up and around Florian Vermeers on the line there. Strong, finished quickly as well. Hirschi did hang on for 5th place, like you said, but just unfortunate. It looked like the Arkea Hofstetter doing the lead out for Mozzato was just desperately trying to get out of the way and not cause a problem for the riders behind, and moved to the right hand side of the road as he saw it, and yeah, just bumped kind of Hirschi, and Hirschi lost a little bit of speed at a vital moment coming into that final left right hand series of corners to the line. It
did seem there are good numbers for Arkea Samsic, desperate need of UCI points in the next couple of years now, after their first year on the World Tour. They just did not get it right, did they? And Luca Mozzato, though, the best finisher from Italy and from the Veneto. Of course, two Venetians, the two best finishers for Italy, with Samuele Battistella, winner a couple of years ago of the Veneto Classic, former under-23 world champion. He was down in 7th place. One final look at the top 10 for those of you watching on television. You're going to be leaving us to go elsewhere in just a moment's time. And if you'd like to stay, trying to get some reaction from the protagonists and, of course, take a look at the podium, stay with us on our digital platforms on Discovery Plus and GCN Plus. But history made in the Veneto, the first ever French winner after the French finished 2nd and 3rd last year with Rochas and Verchau. It is a win for Dorian Godon. So in the Veneto, it's Vive la France today. And Godon taking a very, very prestigious win. And as our television viewers leave us, thanks to you digital viewers for sticking with us. A reminder of how it happened today. It took 55 kilometers or so for the break to go. 4 of the 6 who managed to get into the break survived it to the local laps. 4 of them around this beautiful area just outside of the city of Vicenza. Four and a half minutes, the maximum gap. Quite a few teams interested behind. Israel Premier Tech and UAE, the principal teams trying to pull things around. When it came to the bell lap, oh, it really did change, didn't it? The time was running down, it was aggressive in front, it was equally aggressive behind. Here she tried. She could not get it away, though. 3 remained out front, but only 20 seconds or so of an advantage. And they'd be caught coming down the other side with just 7 kilometers remaining. By this point, there were attacks from the peloton as well. Trentin marking them. Vermeers would try again, taking more out of the opportunity to sprint at the end. Same with Johannessen. Both, though, would end up on the podium. And when it came to the finish, it was one for the locals and the sponsors. Not quite the local rider, but Campagnolo from the city. And having their rider on the only team that they sponsor at the minute in the World Tour, taking the victory. Dorian Godon does it. Johannessen alongside the man next to him, who of course came 3rd, Vermeers. Let's hear from the winner.
Dorian, what a fantastic victory, the perfect way to end your season now.
Yeah, with Stan de Wulf was in the front, so it was perfect. He was very strong, and we just take it at 2 or 5k of the finish, and everybody of the team were control behind the breakaway, and they did a pace for me for the sprint, and I say 2 laps ago from the finish, I feel very, very good, and I want to sprint. So we changed with Benoit, and I did the sprint. I like 50 seconds full. It's like effort I like, and it was perfect finish.
Did you expect to win in such a steep climb, a difficult climb with strong opponents as well?
Yeah, I have a good punch, and I work a lot in training. But in Paris Tour I was a little bit sick. I can't brace, and I was very shit 3 days ago, and now I win. So bike is this sport is incredible.
And now the target is Veneto Classic on Sunday?
Yeah, we want to win again, to finish the grade with another win for the season. And yeah, I like to race in Italy, so why not for a second victory on Sunday? But it's a little bit, I think, difficult for me. But we have a good card with Benoit and Andrea, so we will attack to win the stage.
Thank you very much and congratulations.
More attacking riding promised for Sunday then at the Veneto Classic from Dorian-Godon and Age Desert Citroën. Today they've won at the very scenic Monteberico just outside of Vicenza. And Dorian-Godon making history as the first ever French rider to win the Giro del Veneto. And joining recent names, the likes of Simoni, Pozzato, Trentin a couple of years ago. Of course, looking further down, many have done it. Saronni, Argentin, De Vlaming, as well as going further back, the Grandi Campioni, Campionissimi in fact, Coppi, and of course Girardengo in the 1920s. And quite the palmarès, the Roll of Honour. Bodoro of this Italian race in a region that loves its cycling. And it's with these images we're going to leave you. Thanks to Ian Field for being alongside me, Rob Hatch. More to come still as we get the final little bits of the road season. A reminder, the Tour of Turkey is live every day. Tour of Guangxi begins tomorrow as well. Check your schedules and your territory restrictions. The Veneto Classic should be the last big one-day race of the season on Sunday. For now, though, from Vicenza, from me and from Ian, all the team, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.